live from our studios in Kingstown, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. It's your favorite Thursday night show, Up Late with Sehon Marshall. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the host of tonight's show, Sehon Marshall.
All right, good night, and welcome to another edition of your favorite Thursday evening show, Up Late with Sehon Marshall. I am your host, Sehon Marshall, and I'll be here with you until 10 p.m. Thank you so much for joining. And as I always, I ask you, whenever you log on, to please indicate where you are logging on from so we can acknowledge you. Let me say good evening to everybody in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and if you're overseas, wherever you are, I must say good day, good evening to you as well. Special shout out to the folk in North America. I just spent a few days there, and I must tell you, the reception was really warm. I said it while I was there that it was quite heartwarming for me to recognize how popular and how well watched Present Please is, and also this show Up Late with Sehon Marshall. So I'm really happy to have engaged with you in the diaspora over the last couple of weeks, and I appreciate the love and the support that you've shown. Those of you who continue to support this program financially, I owe you a debt of gratitude, and I ask you, not to stop. Encourage your friends, encourage your associates to support us as well. We have an account that you would see the banner from time to time across the screen, and all you have to do is use that account to support the program. Those of you who like a good comrade met me when I came in, the same day I came in, a good comrade met me at the airport and went to his pocket and decided, listen, I'm going to support you. And the comrade pulled out some cash right there and offered his support to the program. So let me listen. I owe you guys a debt of gratitude, and I thank you so much for your continued support. Continue always to share the live, share it with your friends, share it on your Facebook pages, share it on your Instagram page, your WhatsApp status, and I'm going to do that right now. So, as always, let me take the next few minutes to do this. So I go to YouTube, as I encourage you to do, and once you log on, I see someone from Vermont and St. Vincent and Grenadines. I see Narissa there as well. Narissa, good night to you. Ormond from Vermont, good night to you. So I'm going to share the live
Good
right
night to
now,
you.
and I'm encouraging you guys.
So I'm going to share.
Right.
So
I'm telling you. Why am I getting it so loud here? Anyway, I'm hearing this right in my ears, like if I'm listening to. That is probably the problem right there. I know what is happening there. I know what is happening there. All right. So I'm sharing. So I would share to Facebook, which is where a lot of our individual uh, viewers are. So I'm sharing to Facebook. By the way, I was unable to log into Facebook. While I was in Finland, I accidentally logged myself out of Facebook, so I was unable to log into Facebook for about 2 weeks or so. I've only now been able to do so now that I've gotten back home. So yeah. All right. So I've shared it on Facebook. I'm going to share it also on my on copy that link and share it also on Uplift with Sion Marshall naturally, so that individuals who log on to that, many individuals still log on to the Facebook page Uplift with Sion Marshall. So I put it there for those who would expect to see it there. Then also I would go to my WhatsApp pages. My WhatsApp. What did I just post? Let me see. Yes, wonderful. So I go to my WhatsApp now, and I go to my status, and I paste it there. And many individuals, lovely, would be able to go to my WhatsApp status and see it and log on. And I'm giving you the same time, eh? I'm giving you the same time to do it as well while I'm sharing. The more we share, the more individuals are able to log on, and we want everybody to log on to Uplate with Sehon Marshall. All right. Finally, the last one, I'm sharing the last one now. This is on Instagram. That would also go on my Facebook story. Yes. All right. So we have that. All right. Now, Narissa, let me say good night to you again. And you're one of the biggest supporters of the program. You've been for quite a while. And I met you this afternoon and you said to me, Sian, we need a guest. What I didn't tell you was that I have a special program for tonight because tonight I'm going to test finally the calling aspect of the show. And so after about half an hour, so I'm going to allow individuals to call and we can chat like we normally do. I'm a little stoush tonight. I'm using my fancy teapot I got from, where did I get this teapot from? I think I bought this teapot from Morocco. If not, yes, I think I bought this teapot from, or was it Azerbaijan? I can't remember. It might have been Azerbaijan. So that's how long I've had that teapot. Came from Azerbaijan over 10 years ago, and I think that teapot came from Azerbaijan with some really nice uh, glasses that the Azerbaijanis have their tea in. So yes, Narissa, like I was saying to you, I didn't say it to you, but tonight I'm going to have you're going to have the ability to call in, test it, and interact with me on this program. All right, so that's something we're going to try out tonight. Let's see how it works. I'm using a number, and once it works out fine, then I would. Because remember we had a number a couple of months ago, but yes, I because I didn't try it for such a long time, the phone company took the number back, so I don't have that. All right. Okay. Now, some great news in terms of growth. Our YouTube channel has surpassed 1,500 followers. Now, remember, or subscribers rather. Remember, when we started this year or late December, we had less than 1,000. We had less than 1,000. So, between in the first 4 months of this year, we've grown by more than 50%. Over 500 new subscribers to our YouTube channel, over 1,000 subscribers to my Facebook page, hundreds of followers to maybe 300 followers to my TikTok. So there is real growth, and that shows that more and more people are looking at the program, looking at the content, and I appreciate you for your support. Hey, somebody from Toronto, Canada, good night, good night, good night. And so this growth is happening because you support the program, you watch the program, and you share the program among your contacts, and I appreciate that very much. Now, I want to share something with you just before I move into the topic I'm discussing tonight, right? I returned to St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Saturday. And while at JFK, waiting to board my flight Saturday morning, I sat at the table. I wanted to plug my phone in to get some charge. So I sat at the table. I had a Starbucks in front of me. And I'm there, minding my own business, me alone by the table, just sitting. And then I noticed just silhouettes because my head was down, and when I didn't pay much of attention, but two females and a gentleman and a little boy uh, was in the area. Then I heard someone say something, so I looked up, and there was this stooge. You know, this stooge like the three stooges. This is just one stooge. All right, Kent from the UK. Kent, UK. Good night. Good morning for you. So there's this stooge there who's trying to engage me. And the way the stooge, clearly someone who's unable to engage and interact in a normal manner. Fake Larry King. Fake Larry King. So I looked up. I looked in the direction of the individual who was talking, and I realized that the individual was talking to me. And I chose not to ignore. I responded simply by saying, there's nothing fake about me. I'm as real as it gets. And I then focused back on what I was doing. My phone was there, so I focused on my phone. The stooge sat there for a while and then eventually uh, moved with its companions, you know. Um, and I'm thinking, if you do have nothing for say, just don't say nothing. No. There's no reason for you to try and engage or interact with me. We're not really friends. You see me there. If you want to say something, say good morning. It is before 7, after 6 Saturday morning, place still dark in. You come and go humbug me and harass me peace that early morning. But of course, I learned from Jesus Christ who ignored the devil when he was in the wilderness, and I was able to maintain my peace throughout. You know, but clearly the person didn't and doesn't realize or doesn't know that this whole thing came from the viewers. One viewer thought, I mean, I wear suspenders generally speaking under my jacket, and one evening I was recording, and one viewer thought, listen, this pencil jacket, I like the suspenders. Look, you remind me of Larry King, and I'll tell you this. I rather be a fake Larry King than a genuine stooge like that individual. I rather, Sehon Marshall, rather be a fake Larry King than a genuine stooge. And too often, that is what that person shows itself to be. All right? So we move on. Later on, as I said, I'm going to open the lines. I'm going to give you a number. The number is actually on the screen going across there, 4926-464. I'm going to open it a little later on and discuss and give you the opportunity to weigh in on our discussion. Because I know many individuals wanted interaction for a long time. We tried it a few times. One time I had my Uncle Louis on afternoon and it worked. And one time we tried it, Kojo called and so on. So we tried it a couple of times and, you know, we're going to try it again tonight and see if it works. All right? Now, today, unfortunately, for the first time since I started on the 20-something of January, I missed an episode of Present Please. I got home late this afternoon, and I have been busy trying to prepare for tonight, doing all of the testing and so forth, and so I missed an episode of Present Please today. So Bling vex me tomorrow because you ain't get enough for playback, but I'm sorry. All right, so let's get in. This thing was going on for too long. It took go on too long. The young people are say, and this comes from a song, a dancehall song, keep the same energy. We who feel we bright and go university and so on and know big word and big phrases. So like Dr. Audrey Gilksna, bright girl, PhD, you know, and other doctors would say, be consistent. Consistency is a trait that is admirable. We expect individuals to be consistent, especially as regards principles. You know, when you look at, for example, the conflict in the Middle East, you hear individuals asking, and mainly those in support of Israel, does Israel have a right to exist? In the meantime, the Palestinians are being blown to smithereens and Gaza, Palestine is flattened while the country that promotes its right of existence seeks to destroy and eliminate the existence of another. And it always amuses me, which may not be the right word, when I hear journalists go, does Israel have a right to exist? No one asks, does Palestine have a right to exist? Recently, we read the threat from the President of the United States threatening to eliminate the entire civilization of Iran. Clearly, according to him, Iran doesn't have a right to exist. Did it have such a right to exist, then you wouldn't be threatening its very existence. Now, that is where the issue of consistency comes in. You have to be consistent across the board, especially on issues of principle. It's either right or wrong. It can be right when someone is doing it, but wrong when someone else is doing the same thing. the same thing. You can't chastise me for doing X, but when your friend does X, you seek for excuses and justifications for your friend's actions. You have to be consistent. No. The NDP spent 25 years in opposition. Almost 25, 24, planned plenty. Because this year, March would have been 25 years. So between November, 4 months. So they spent 24 and 24 years, 8 months, 24 and 3/4 years or something like that in opposition. And they engaged in certain activities. They pushed certain narratives. They had certain messages that were loud, that were clear, that were strong. And one of the things that the NDP built its campaign on for years is the issue of crime. The NDP campaigned that St. Vincent and the Grenadines had a crime problem, had a crime crisis. Those were some of the words that they used, crisis. They lamented the actions of the government in tackling crime. They lamented the actions of the police in addressing the issue of crime for years. Their supporters, many of them, went on radio, went on social media, and talked about the fact that St. Vincent and the Grenadines had the highest crime rate per capita. We were the crime capital. These were some of the things that their supporters said while they were in opposition. Meanwhile, the government sought to address the issue of crime, understanding that it remains multifaceted. Note I say it was, because I had to be consistent. We had these discussions before. We talked about this on this program. We talked about it in this program. So the government recognized that crime was multifaceted. And as things evolved, maybe the methods used in fighting crime didn't evolve quickly enough. Now, I'm no expert. I ain't no major. I spent most of the term in cadets and I drop out. So I ain't pass myself off as no boss in crime fighting and no man who's national security minister and national security expert. No. I leave in the expert to talk about their expertise. I leave in the experts to talk about their expertise. Now let's go back, because I always like to go back and give you context. When the ULP campaigned, the ULP also campaigned on the issue of crime. And this was back in 1997, 98, and so forth, and then for the election in 2001. And I remember vividly the narrative or the message of the NDP, of the ULP, sorry. The message was, we are going to be tough on crime and on the causes of crime. It meant that the opposition then that became government eventually recognized that there were a number of root causes of crime that needed to be tackled. Not just the symptoms of it, but the root causes. And you had to address a number of these root causes. I'm going to remind all the things, I'm going to remind all the things tonight. So, the government went about in a systematic way, in my view, in addressing some of the elements of crime fighting, of addressing crime in our country. One of the things that the government started doing immediately was training more police officers. You have to increase capacity. Not enough police officers, let's train more. You can't say that is not a reasonable step. You can't dismiss that as a reasonable step. Every reasonable individual should agree that that was a reasonable step. The benefits of police officers were improved, their salaries were increased. So that made it more attractive to get some of the more certified individuals in the police service, in the police force. I remember one time when I was going to Teachers College, I was having there was a discussion in class, and CP, my good lecturer, he was making the point about how some of those government jobs were seen, and you go hear parents, you go hear people say, "Hello, my son done school. How long and your subjects, and he can't even get to work. He can't get to work, not even teaching, or not even police." You know what I'm talking about? Not even that it was, and they can't even get into that. So, by improving the conditions of service, improving things like salaries and benefits, you were able to attract better certified individuals into the service. I mean, you want the bright ones to be police officers too. You want individuals who are analytical, people who are logical in their thinking, and critical thinkers to be able to fight crime. There were a number of police stations across the country then that were dilapidated. So we know the government went about to fix many of them and built new ones. So, of course, the three that would jump out to mind immediately would be Kittels, Bayaboo, and Georgetown. Other minor repairs were done at police stations. Things like buying vehicles for police officers. Those things were done as well, so that police officers can't say, well, I can't respond to crime because I don't want a vehicle. And there were things done within the structure of the police force as well, creating, units to address the issue of specialized units to address crime. You also had other policy initiatives. You had, for example, the initiation of, or the formation of, the National Commission on Crime Prevention, the NCCP. And the NCCP was used to look at non-traditional ways of engaging individuals. We love to say, we know the adage, we would hear our parents and so forth say, the devil finds work for idle hands. And so the idea of the NCCP was to engage in non-traditional methods to get our young men and our young women engaged so that there's less time for crime and devious behavior. And so you had, for example, the Pan Against Crime. Now, that initiative saw the starting up of pan sites across the country. And if you look at the way it was done systematically, you would see that while before 2001, Panorama had all but disappeared and you had maybe 3 pan sites in the country, now you have more. You have the traditional, you have the Starleaf, you have the Siren Hill, the big ones. You have JP's pan site out at Calico. You had one out of Stubbs. I'm not sure what the situation is with that. You have Elite. You have Symphonix. So you have more pan sites now, many more, and you have a lot more pan sites in the junior category. School sites coming through. So young people are taking it to pan, and that has added value to our carnival celebrations. And you see more individuals engage in pan soloists and so on, making money as pan men and women in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So you have the pan against crime, you have sports against crime as well. But people mocked it, People mocked those initiatives. Oh, cannot chip in this, man. Which criminal will left crime and complete pan? Sometimes I wonder if the opposition saw any value in supporting some of these initiatives of the government in tackling the issue of crime. I wonder about crime. I ain't just talking about homicides, because that seems to be the only focus. But there are other type of crimes as well: burglary, robbery, wounding, and so on and so forth. And many years recent, you saw downward trajectory in other types of crime, even as things like homicide increased. So they recognized that crime is multifaceted and you had to do different things to address the issue of crime. They did. Now, in the meantime, the then opposition did its best to highlight every instance of crime so as to paint the country in a particular light. Now, I remember saying this many, many times on Morning Scoop. Sometimes you get the impression by their actions, their words and their actions, their words and deeds, that the NDP's mantra was they do not care if SVG loses, if that's the only way the NDP could win. So they didn't care the damage they were doing to the reputation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They didn't care. They took every chance to highlight all of the negatives of our country. One, to show that the government was incompetent. Two, to show that the police, the branch of government specifically tasked with fighting crime, was incompetent, they didn't know what they were doing. And in so doing, cast our country in a horrible light. When you talk about St. Vincent and the Grenadines being a crime capital and we worse than South Africa and so on and so forth, and these words are coming from members of parliament, they carry weight. Those words carry weight. And so individuals who are not from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, doing their research and pulling up a video or pulling up an article from a member of parliament describing St. Vincent and the Grenadines as the crime capital of the Caribbean or the crime capital of the world and so forth, they would go, well, if that's the way the member of parliament feels, why go in there for? Now, during those times, I worked with the government. I'm also a Vincentian. And it always irked me that responsible individuals would speak like that about our country. And you would hear in the media, even, and I'm talking about back then, even media personnel not necessarily supportive of the government, making the point that, look, that could never be in Barbados. Because, listen, a lot of the media entities would salivate at the thought of splashing a murder and so forth on the front page of a newspaper, highlighting every criminal activity that occurred. And you would want to know, where are the positive things that are happening? I'm not saying you shouldn't report it, but it seems that there was an excitement in pushing the issues of crime, the bad news out there and giving it maximum visibility and pushing positive things, things that mattered, the information that our citizens needed, further down, in the middle, to the back. Not the back page necessarily, because the back page, when people buy a newspaper, and someone taught me this, the first thing to do is look front, back. So the front page and the back page are the two best things. I'm talking about inside the paper itself. Bury it. And many people were accused. I remember the current ambassador to Taiwan, Kenton Chance, the founder of Eyewitness News. Before Kenton got its compensation package, a compensation package already gone. But before the compensation package, many individuals took to him about his attitude in promoting the negatives and the crimes that were occurring in our country. Well, now that he got his compensation package, I'm not sure how active Eyewitness News is anymore, and whether or not the individual or individuals who've taken over maybe a bit more balance in their reporting, or if they'll keep the same energy and plaster crime at the front page and make sure those things get maximum visibility. Maximum visibility. So I guess we're going to watch to see how that would go. But there was this concerted effort to elevate and put to the front and give the visibility to the negatives in the crime situation, blaming the government, tarnishing the reputation of citizens and Grenadines. But the most important part that you have to remember is that they presented themselves as the alternative. I want to remember that, because that is important that we come into that. We spoke about this, I mentioned this recently. Dr. Gonzalez went to the meeting in Trinidad, a security meeting. He said, listen, you have some of these young men who have high maintenance ladies, and they can't afford the high maintenance ladies. And they get involved in criminal activity to take care, to address much of the needs of the ladies, the partners that they have. I remember as someone who worked at the consulate, one of the challenges we had them time, Selman Walters was the consul general. And he was saying, comrade, a lot of these individuals in the US who commit crime, they may have heard the name St. Vincent and Grenadines from some relative, but they don't want to about St. Vincent. They come up when they're 5, they're 7, they're 3. No, they're 40-something, 50-something. They spent 20 years in jail. They have lived the life of crime in the US, murder, armed robbery, and so forth. Gangs. They spent 20 years, 18 years, what have you, in jail. And then the US then deports them. And there are quite a number of individuals who fit that profile, who are deported to the Grenadines. When they come, they continue their criminality. They are a lot more advanced in their criminality than many of the guys here who do the petty crimes, but they're able to get guys to come around them and have these associations and influence the young men into crimes. Seems that none of those things matter to the NDP in their criticisms. They ignore the fact that crime is multifaceted and there are many, many things that are at play in what is happening. So, in 2024, and you heard me say this on present, please. When the CILAC was having its meeting, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, 30-something countries, hundreds of delegates, the NDP thought that this was the perfect time to highlight the situation of crime, specifically homicides in St. Vincent and Grenadines. specifically homicides. And so they erected two massive billboards. 52 crime, 52 murders for the year. Crime is out of control, was the message from the NDP to the world, to the delegates. Now, the reality is that for many of those delegates from many of the countries, 52 murders is a joke compared to their own countries. So, off the cuff, without thinking, population size and so on and so on, they might say, 52 only? Oh, wow, he will safe. Might have happened. But to many, that must have been startling because what? A small country like St. Vincent, 52 murders? Wow, this place must really be dangerous. This place must really be unsafe. Clearly, that was the message that the NDP wanted to transmit to those visiting our country because they chose the time of the visit to do this. And they put the billboard in a strategic position so that the visitors could see it. And they felt proud. They felt accomplished. They felt accomplished. At that time, there was no discussion among anyone within the NDP about what this could be doing, what the action, what the impact of that action could have on St. Vincent and the Grenadines and on its tourism product. None. Now, I want to just interject here by saying that the NDP, though, as an organization, has been a perpetrator of violence. And all you have to do is go back to their protest action during COVID to see individuals assaulting police officers. As a matter of fact, if you go even further back, you remember when the NDP was protesting the $1 at the port? Do you remember that one of the members of parliament got into an altercation with a police officer? The NDP has been an organization that promotes violence. Do you remember E.G. Lynch on a platform cussing Ken Boy and saying, if Ken Boy pass, I'll kick him in the face? Do you remember that? That is the NDP. There was no repudiation of E.G. Lynch or anybody on the platform, including the leader of the opposition then. You saw the violence that they encouraged at the cruise ship boat when they protested. You saw what happened in the parliament when they were asked to leave the parliament by the speaker. You saw what happened during COVID when they were protesting, when they took the peaceful out of the protest. And remember, it was that time when one of them was PM head, the former PM head. So, as an organization, the New Democratic Party has always been one that promotes violence. Don't forget, it is this leader, this Minister of National Security, that proudly said that people approach him for money to buy bullet. And you could put that in whatever context you want. That is up to you. But I am telling you, nobody is going to come to me and tell me, Sehon boy, I want $50 to go buy bullet. Because they know I don't dwell up with that. And they would never come to me with a conversation like that. Never. I ain't saying they can't take a $50 from me and buy bullet. They could come and say, boy, Sehon boy, things really rough for me, boy. Yeah? Give me a small change, give me $50, please. I want to do so and so and so. And they give me $50 and they turn around and they go buy bullet. That can happen. But they would never come to me and complain out and tell me, boy, I want $50 to go buy some bullet. But this Minister of National Security said it publicly. Publicly. You remember the former leader of the opposition, the one before Friday, talking about having information about a potential crime and refusing to take it to the police? Listen, this is the NDP, And we could try and avoid it and sidestep it and support as much as we want, but the record is there. They promote violence. And as long as the violence assists the NDP in achieving its goals, they have no problem with it. I'm wondering because many times I've heard in the past people would say that it was this or that party. I don't want to quote which one because I might get it wrong, in Jamaica, that brought in the guns and so on and so on, and armed the gangs because the gangmen were able to work on their behalf. Sometimes you get this sense that the NDP has no problem promoting violence as long as the violence allows them to achieve their goals, and they will highlight the violence. So somebody going to get killed, you ain't say nothing about it, but when the person does get killed, you highlight it as a murder in the country because they're able to say, oh, another murder, the government know it do it. So when I listen to the Minister of National Security caution individuals today, when I say today, I mean now, because he did it a few days ago on radio, Tuesday morning, to be careful how we talk about citizens and crime, because you could damage the reputation of citizens and individuals. Well, first of all, they are all over the place. Because Fitzbramble went and said that St. Vincent and Grenadines had a tarnished reputation and people were fed up. And he just go to meetings and people just say, oh, it's so refreshing now. That's on the one hand. So we had a horrible reputation. Horrible, according to Fitzbramble. But on the other hand, Likaka is saying, listen, we have good reputation, you can't tarnish it. Because if it damages the reputation that we have, you could impact the tourism brand. We are a brand. We have a brand that was built by the previous administration, a brand that was able to entice a global brand like Sandals to come here and spend big money, and was planning to spend another set of big money to build another resort. That's not a country with a shabby reputation. That's a country with a reputation that's worth investing in. We've been breaking records year after year in terms of stay visitors, and that happened even before Carlos. People like Sesmaki and so on, Lady Grongwalk, Rennie Batiste as Minister of Tourism, Glenn Beach as Minister of Tourism. The work has been systematic for years so that we are where we are now. And so we have the reputation that we have now. And the airlines are coming, and the hotels are coming. Build it and they will come. That was the message when we were building the airport. And so you ask yourself, hold on, Sinclair. How is it that you are now concerned about our reputation and you're cautioning people to be careful about how they speak about St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Where is the consistency? You should have a problem with people going on radio and on Facebook and talking about the number of murders that we have, because that's what you and your party did. That's what you and your party did. Later on this year or early next year, should the ULP opposition do a billboard talking about how many murders the country had? Would that be acceptable by this administration? I'm going to lend just now, don't worry. I see somebody watching from Brooklyn there. I go on the lines just now. Give me a few minutes there. 492-6464. You could call it. All right. Now we're testing it just for tonight. So after tonight, once it work out proper, I ain't going to use this number. She will get its own number. All right. So we have a brand. Now let me say this now. The NDP, I'm hearing individuals talking about time. So now, I want you to listen to me now. Their response when you criticize the administration is a new government. They want time. Give them time. You expect after 25 years of this, it will happen in 4 months. How much time do you need? How much time is reasonable time? That's my question. How much time is reasonable time? Because that's not it. You want time. You want time for everything. But let me tell you something. Let me explain something to the NDP supporters who are screaming for time. Time out. I think they did in baseball or basketball say what time out. Let me explain something to y'all. The NDP campaigned for years about the crime situation in St. Vincent and Grenadines and many other things. They campaigned for years about the crime situation in the country. They campaigned that the government was ineffective and they didn't know what they were doing to deal with crime. They campaigned that the ULP administration was incompetent and had no idea of how to address crime. And then they said to you and me, the citizens of our country, vote us in the NDP. We have a plan to address crime. That is much different than the NDP saying, if you vote me, we'll go in there and we will try to figure out a plan when we get there to address crime. No, that's not what they told you. They didn't tell you, elect us on November 7th. And when we get in the November 27th, and when we get in the November 29th or December 4th, we will formulate a plan. We will try and figure it out and figure out a plan on how to deal with crime. They say, no, we have a plan to fix crime. Now, I remember Dr. Gonzalez had made a point mockingly about statements made by the then leader of the opposition, current Prime Minister, where he said his plan is to get into office and call a meeting to devise a plan. And Dr. Gonzalez said, wait, so your plan is to call a meeting to try and make a plan. You ain't have no plan. But they convinced Vincentians that they had a plan to deal with crime. Vincentians, there is a difference between implementation and formulation. They did not tell you to elect them so that they can formulate a plan. They told you that they have already formulated a plan, and when you elect them, they will implement that plan. How long should it take for you to implement? You want time. Time for what exactly? From what is happening in this country regarding crime and murders and so on, it appears to me that the NDP is trying to formulate a plan now that they're in office, not implement. And that is why their supporters and even themselves are asking for more time. Because they had no plan and they're now seeking to scramble to formulate. And why do I say that? Because nothing different is being done than what was being done before. Sinclair Leacock is saying the same things almost that Dr. Gonzalez and Labour was saying when they were in office. Talk about the family, the family, talking about crime being multifaceted, talking about all of us need to have our hands on deck. But they are just talking. They are not doing. Help me out. If you're NDP supporter and you're watching the program tonight, and I know you had money in you, tell me please, what exactly is the plan that they're implementing? Because I ain't see it. What exactly is the plan that the NDP is implementing? They aren't implementing a plan. As a matter of fact, I can tell you, let's go across the entire spectrum of policies that the ULP had going before it lost, and they voted for change. So, crime, they've not done anything different. We are not seeing the implementation of the plan they told you they had. They told us they had. We're not seeing it when it comes to crime. They will fire people and install a new commission and so on, but that can't be the plan to fight crime. Their plan for housing, we're not seeing it, except the fact that they're firing housing assistants and so on. So seemingly they're rolling back on that. What's the new plan? They talked about the fact that education revolution was a failure. What is the new plan that they're implementing? Paying fees for students, but students are still happy with the fees. What is the new plan? They remind me of the Republicans under Donald Trump that spent years criticizing and planning to get rid of Obamacare. And the only thing Trump could have said was, we have concepts of a plan. And effort after effort after effort have all failed because they are unable to come up with a plan that is at least as good as Obamacare. So apparently, now that the NDP is in office, they have concepts of a plan. They have concepts of a plan for crime, but they can't implement it because it ain't piecing together well. I ain't hearing nothing about the blue economy. Just today, I got a call from a former colleague of mine who was in the UN, and we were having some discussions about some work that the organization that she works with is doing at the International Seabed Authority. And I remember to myself, I said, wait, Godwin Friday said over and over and over that when they win, they're going to have a ministry of the blue economy. And I sat down today trying to figure out which ministry might be responsible for that. And I looked, and there is no ministry of the blue economy. There is no ministry of the blue economy. Or am I missing something? Did I miss it? There's the Ministry of Fisheries, Conroy Huggins, I can't remember the whole and everything. But I looked and I looked and I looked, and I can't remember seeing that personally love stuff. The snails can't be a part of the blue economy. There's a part of the slow economy. And apparently the whole economy is slow now. But there's no blue economy. So they were talking a lot of things while in opposition. But now that they're in government, nothing falling into place. No plan to implement. Where are the plans for tourism? You hear Dr. Shallow, the Minister of Tourism, saying that he's going to discontinue, or rather not going to continue much of what was being done previously, at least where Northwood is concerned, by the former rep. But what is your plan? You're telling me what you're not going to do. I want to hear what you're going to do. Where are the plans? So they came into office telling you that they have a plan to fix crime. Crime has not gotten any better. As a matter of fact, the murder statistics alone are far worse than they were this time last year. And you're not hearing, this is the plan that we have to fight crime. All you're hearing is, no, listen, you can't talk about crime now anymore. You shouldn't talk about crime now like you used to. You can't talk about crime now under NDP the same way you used to talk about it under Ralph Gonsalves and Labour, because it will make the country look bad. Is that the new plan? Fighting crime? Shutting people up? Are we going to bury your heads in the sand? No. So if we don't talk about the crime, then we don't have no crime. Is that it? If I could get you to not talk about the prevalence of crime in the country, then that is the same as St. Vincent and the Grenadines being crime-free. Is that the plan for tackling crime? Because as of now, I have not seen it. But the blowback that he's getting, now let me say, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. I agree with Leacock. Or rather, I agree with the sentiments as expressed by Leacock. And I can say that because those sentiments have always been mine for years. You can't badmouth the country. I'm sure almost everybody on the live now would see that when in opposition under the ULP administration, it hurt our feelings the way people spoke about St. Vincent and the Grenadines in a manner to damage the reputation. We were all disgusted and angered by the billboards that the NDP put up. And in so doing, I could tell you, I won't support putting up a similar billboard anywhere in the country under NDP administration. I won't support it. Because I'm going to be consistent. I am not going to go on the radio and lambaste St. Vincent and the Grenadines as the crime capital of the world. If there is something that I can criticize regarding the prevalence of crime, I reserve the right to do so. But you know I ain't going to call my country the crime capital of the world. You know I ain't going to support no billboards at a time when visitors are coming in. Eh? You think I'm going to go up with placards about crime up at the cruise ship boat when cruise ships come in? Never. Because I am consistent on that matter of principle. You can't badmouth St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or rather, you should not be badmouthing St. Vincent and the Grenadines on our country's reputation because it can have a negative impact globally. That's my principal stance. That is my principal stance on that matter. And so now, as refreshing as it is to hear the change of tune of the Minister of National Security, you know it's coming from a place of embarrassment, and you know it's coming from a place of desperation, because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to address the issue of crime. I don't know how to control it, so at least, oh God, I don't talk about it now. That's what it's all about, you know. I have no clue what to do. I saw somebody post this morning. I was looking at a video on Facebook from Hot 97 this morning, and I saw someone post that Sinclair Leacock is the worst. He is the worst Minister of National Security ever. He is more concerned about undermining Godwin Friday and looking like the Prime Minister than doing the work as Minister of National Security. That comment was on Hot 97 this morning. He's all over the place. I want them to get their act together about how much time you want. How much time you want? If you do a comparative, I think I need to sit down with Dr. Gonzalez and give me an idea of what the accomplishments of the ULP were in the first 100 days and do a comparison with the spin list that they gave recently, the list of defaults that they're trying to spin to claim victory. Or we reinstate teachers, or we give a VAT free day, or we didn't fire nobody, or what? Or we didn't raise no taxes. No, but you said you lower taxes. So if you say you lower taxes, you can't come and tell me you didn't raise taxes as a success. What? How much time do you need? How much time do you need? How much more time do you need to implement the plans that you said you had during the campaign? And I understand that once implemented, the plan is going to take time to start being effective. But you gotta first of all implement them. And I'm not seeing or hearing anything. I saw an article in one of the blogs, and I've heard this expressed by other people as well, that what the NDP needs is a communication specialist. So you are somebody now. Jomo is suggesting that the NDP hires someone to try and spin and bamboozle the nothing that they're doing. You remember the whole thing? The emperor's new clothes. You want somebody to come and say, "Oh my God, the emperor's clothes look so nice." Even the emperor naked. That's what Jomo is suggesting. Because according to him, it's not about ineffectiveness. According to him, it's not about incompetence or mismanagement or all those things. It's about communication. Well, I mean, I'm a communication specialist, but I saw that the office of the Prime Minister, and I made sure that I got out through press releases and different things what the government was doing. Because the government was doing. If the NDP government is doing, we go see. We go see. Maybe they gave Ambassador Chance the wrong compensation package. Maybe they should have kept him on the ground. The API and so on, you know. But there's nothing to show. There's literally nothing to show. So we will communicate. Even the best communication specialists would need something, would need information to communicate. And in the absence of information, what are we going to do? Yeah, 11 murders for the year already. What are we going to do? Have a communication specialist say, well, they want 11 murders. There were only 5 murders and 6 deaths. So the 6 deaths want murders? I mean, what are we going to do? What are we going to try and color the situation? Like I said, I agree with the sentiments expressed. And I know many of you who support the ULP and supported the ULP Welling government who were angered and disgusted and disappointed by the comments and the attitudes of the NDP and its supporters towards the reputation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, are happy that the Minister of National Security has come to this realization. But at the same time, I understand your frustration because of the hypocrisy. Because you're going, you should have been doing that and saying that all the time. But they've shown that they have no problem sabotaging civilians and Grenadines. They have shown that they have absolutely no problem sabotaging civilians and Grenadines. However, I continue to encourage Vincentians to do their part in crime fighting. Do your part in crime fighting. If you see something, say something. If you know it, report it. And of course, I also encourage the police force to try and improve, always work for improved relations between yourself and the community so that they would bring information and give you, because you need the information. You need information from witnesses, from people within the community to assist you in solving crimes. So you have to forge those relationships. You can't adopt an attitude of power play and arrogance when it comes to the people in the community because they need the help. So we gotta work together. I've not heard what the Minister of National Security plans to do with the NCCP. I don't know if there's any budget for the continued work of the NCCP in terms of the plan against crime and other things or the initiatives that they had. I don't know. As I said, we know the plan B. We do not know what the plan is. when it comes to addressing the issue of crime and violent crimes in our country. And it's not, in my view, because of an inability to communicate, because Leacock has been on radio probably more than anybody else. So it ain't a communication problem. He has been on Boomer 4 times. He has been on NBC Radio. He's having his press conferences. So on the issue of communication, Leacock is taking the scruff, taking it by his scruff at the neck, and doing his own communication as Minister of National Security. So it's not an absence of communication because he's talking. I mean, when you go and boom for hour and a half, and you've done it about 4 times since you win, at least once every month so far, might be even more, and you've done NBC Radio, and you've had press conferences, you're communicating. The thing is, we know what you're saying because you're not communicating a clear, credible plan to address crime and national security in our country. You're just talking. And according to the person who commented this morning, trying to show up Friday and look prime ministerial. That's all. Now, I know I said that I would open up the line, so I'm going to give you guys an opportunity. I don't know if there's anyone who wants to, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to give a call. It's 784 if you're overseas, 492-6464. You could give us a call and you could share your thoughts with me and with the listeners over what we've discussed tonight. All right, so the line's open. I'd leave it there for you to call, and hopefully, let's see, we can do this for a little bit until we yeah until the end of the show. But of course, I'll keep talking. And if somebody calls, we take the call. If not, I keep talking, and I'll give Bling his hour and a half. Because I know Bling plays the program back on a Friday morning, and so I try to give him at least an hour and a half. So if he starts at 7:30, he can go all the way up to 9 o'clock, right? So I work with Bling, and I work with Star Radio. So yes, he is communicating. It's not a matter of communication, as Jomo suggests, and others who may want to suggest that. It's a matter of not having any real plan. So you can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but if you don't have a plan, it don't matter what you say. It don't matter what you say. And people in the country are watching as you talk, but nothing changes. Remember, you told them to vote for a change, and that change is not happening. Well, to be quite frank, if you have to be honest, we could say that it's for the worst. It has gotten worse. It's not getting better. One of the things that individuals have been saying all the time is, well, not all the time, but you've been hearing how dead St. Vincent is. Dead on the end of the month and so on. Dead on a Friday. Well, oh God, if you elected a dead Friday to lead the country, what do you expect what do you expect from Fridays? if you elected a dead Friday, Sleepy Friday, as my partner calls him. If you elected a dead Friday to run the country, what do you then expect from Fridays? Friday is dead. Because from a leadership standpoint, we elected a dead Friday. And so you go through Kingston on a Friday, hello, ghost town. You look at end the month, dead. Dead. And you ask yourself, is this the change that you voted for? Is this the change that you voted for? So we're going to sell snails now? We're going to export African snail? Giant African snail? I mean, look, I tell all you know, it's about having a plan. There's no plan. What is the plan? Remember they used to talk about revitalizing agriculture? What have you heard about the plans for revitalizing agriculture? What plans have you heard? Because they should not be trying to come to you to tell you we're going to make up a plan now, as clearly, which is what they're doing because they're going to sell snail. They should be telling you we are going to implement this plan that we formulated while we were in opposition. And so when it comes to agriculture, we're going to do X, Y, Z, ABC because we're going to bring back agriculture to the days of... Those were some of the promises they made you, bringing back agriculture to the banana day, the glory days like banana. Let me see the thing now. Let me see it. Let's see the plan. Like I said to you, there's a difference between implementation and formulation. When Vincent Jones voted for you, my own belief, my assumption is, and I don't know if I have a right to be assuming this, but my assumption at the time was that they voted based on the fact that the expectation that you already had plans formulated to address the issues that you criticized. The issues of housing, you had a plan to address housing. For years, you tried to convince us that the education revolution was not working, it's a failure. You had a plan to fix that. For years, you talked about the healthcare system. And the man who rubbished the healthcare system the most, calling the hospital a morgue and so forth, is now the Minister of Health. I expected your plan to start a run to fix it. And you know, what I've been seeing happening is the scapegoating. The scapegoating. Oh, nothing happening in health because all the nurse them still did it. Well, fire all. Fire all, everyone. Just go down and fire all tomorrow and hire some brand new nurses. Oh, how you expect you to fight crime when all the policemen still did it? Fire all. When you hear them talk about how much policemen supported the NDP, so they voted for you, voted out the ULP, and they're still criticizing and saying it's because they're why things are what they are. Fire all. Oh, Philip has had some strong words to the teachers. Fire all, Philip. Fire every single one. About 2,000 of them, 1,800 of them. Fire all. Because that seems to be the only solution. The reason why things ain't happening is because Labour supporters sabotaging the government. Bramble says so. Leacock says so. All of you. So fire everybody. Fire all the civil servants too. Fire, except Boucher. Can't fire Boucher. Can't fire Boucher. And Shellyan in Northfield. Yeah. You gotta keep Boucher. You gotta keep Shellyan. You might have to keep Ellis too. Dr. Ellis, because I hear she getting out with some nonsense in hospital, but that's another story. That's another time. So fire all public servants except Boucher. Fire all nurses except Shellyan. Fire all doctors except Ellis, and Ellis. Fire all police except Buju. How was Sunday? I would say fire all teachers except Adrian, but I don't get back you work, so I don't understand. Why I keep it in teaching? Stop the scapegoating. The reason why nothing happening is because you guys didn't have a plan. The reason why things seem stagnant is because you guys didn't have a plan. Nobody is sabotaging all you. The few teachers who ain't belong in the system and who should leave, they were there before. They may have voted for you now, but trust me, they ain't gonna perform under you. The few police officers, the rotten eggs, who thought that, listen, they want to get away with everything and they vote against Labour to vote you in, they ain't going to change. They ain't going to do any better under you. They're going to frustrate you too. Because they have no interest in the work of a police officer or of a nurse. Most of the nurses work miracles at hospital. The few who were frustrated in the process under ULP, they voted for you. And they will continue to frustrate the process under you. Because they will feel entitled. It's them who put you there. The few police officers or teachers or public servants who were frustrating processes under the ULP voted for you, NDP. I could tell you that. And their attitudes will not change because they feel entitled and they will continue to frustrate you and your government. Now, those weren't the only ones who voted. There are others, of course. Other teachers, good nurses, good public servants, hardworking, who for one reason or the other thought that the NDP was an option and they voted for you. Many of whom I'm sure are disappointed right now. Very disappointed. I know that. Because they're not seeing what they're accustomed to. They're not seeing the kind of planning. They're not seeing the kind of organization. They're not seeing the kind of systematic movements where things are done in a coordinated manner and fitting together as a universal whole. They're not seeing that anymore. And so they suck in the teeth and they wonder, what we do? But they don't do it. And police officers are frustrated because all they're hearing is a Minister of National Security talking about the $500 million worth of cocaine. Police officers often about $500 million worth of cocaine? Where you get that from? What kind of nonsense he talking about? Telling man bringing cocaine and there's a cocaine amnesty, bringing the cocaine and we're going to lock you up. What? Who advising this guy? But some of them got bite the lip and hold embarrassment because they're going to say, well, boy, me vote for them. What is happening here? I am partially responsible because I voted for this. But listen, don't be dismayed, police officers. Do the work. Continue to work to keep our nation safe. Those of you who are used to ensuring that you do your best to formulate good relations with the public, continue to do that. Because the public will help you. And you, the members of the public, who listen, you have information. If you don't want to go and speak directly with the police officer, do so through a lawyer. If you feel that it's of confidentiality, do so through a lawyer. Speak to a lawyer, and the lawyer could assist you with ensuring that the information that is necessary, that's critical to the police doing their job, is passed on in a very confidential way. People have their own skepticisms. And I'm not going to dismiss anybody's skepticism. If you think somebody is skeptical and they're not sure, give them an option to assist. Don't just dismiss it. Or you want to come to the station and then whatever. May I tell with you? No. Give them an option. Maybe there's another way they can have the information that they have. They can use a conduit to get it to you that can assist you in your crime fighting. And I would end, because like nobody will call, and me well, yeah, I think for call 492-6464, but that's all right. We would continue to treasure the reputation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Continue. Yeah? Because we understand that this country belongs to all of us. And we can't burn down the empire to rule over the ashes. We can't trash it simply because we're not the ones governing it. Just so we can get into government and then hope that things would change, because we are going to have to deal with the same type of attitude. The attitude that the NDP encouraged while in opposition is the same attitude that is likely to come and haunt them now that they're in government. And they don't seem ready to deal with that reality. So now all the Minister of National Security and Prime Minister in audition could do is tell people, don't talk. Don't talk about the crime situation. Because when you talk about the crime situation, you're smearing the country. And when you smear the country's reputation, you are impacting the tourism product. And I'm glad that he has come to that realization. I'm glad that he has come to that realization. And hopefully, like I said yesterday on President Please, there are other realizations that the education revolution, it ain't no failure. It is one of the legacies of our government. It is one of the things of the St. Vincent that will stand eternally. They've already recognized that the airport is a fantastic investment, so that's good. Maybe they'll come around to the port because, yeah, clearly they're embracing it. I had heard that everyone go back, open back the port in Cameron Park, then they close it back. So me sure going on. I'm not sure. Maybe eventually they would come to the realization that much of what they rubbished and criticized while they were in opposition were actually very solid policies that put St. Vincent and the Grenadines on a strong, firm foundation. We knew it. We know it. And maybe they always knew it, but they lied about it. But whichever it is, whether it is that having lied about it for years, they've now decided to speak the truth, or that they've now understand, now that they're in government, now that the shoe is on the other foot, and they feel in the pinch, the can and the liquor to a bun, they realize, oh, this is what we couldn't see while we were outside. Now that we're inside, we're seeing it. And the realization of the effectiveness, or at least the relevance and appropriateness of the policies, that may have required tweaking here or there, but that they were good policies. And a little support from the opposition could have gone a long way. No, I bet you they're going to start to come and ask this opposition for support. The government, while in opposition, didn't support nothing. I bet you they're going to come and ask this opposition for support. But already, you see the opposition leader, former Prime Minister, gladly offering suggestions and working with them and telling them, this is what you should do, and and they don't like it, but you have the experience. So you could either learn from the experience that's available, or continue to play foolhardy, jump on the radio, talk nonsense, and hope that fixes the problem. That approach has never worked in the past, and it didn't go up now. But like I said, we have to continue to treasure and safeguard our reputation, the reputation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, so that visitors, but also nationals, could feel proud as nationals to represent St. Vincent and the Grenadines wherever we are. And visitors would be excited and motivated and interested in coming to experience what we as Vincentians have to offer. Listen, we're the new treasure in the region. And everybody wants a piece of St. Vincent and Grenadines. And they can't all have it from a investment standpoint, from an investment standpoint. But many, many, many can experience it from a visitor's point of view. And we have to encourage them to come. And while they're here, do our best as citizens, as government, to ensure that our friends who visit are safe. Until next Thursday, when I am back with another edition of Uplift with Sehon Marshall. Let me thank all of you who logged on from wherever you logged on. Thank you also for sharing the program. Thank you for putting it on your status and so forth so that other people could log on. Thank you, those of you who continue to support the program financially. And again, let me apologize for not having an episode of Present Place today, but God's willing, tomorrow you'll have one. Until next Thursday, God's willing, have yourself a fantastic Thursday night.